Single dad saves a poor girl abandoned in a wheelchair in the rain. The truth left him stunned. The rain was coming down hard, the kind that soaks through clothes and chills you to the bone. Headlights blurred across wet streets, and most people were in a hurry to get home. That's when one man noticed something that didn't belong in the storm. A wheelchair. Alone. And a young girl sitting in it, completely helpless in the pouring rain. He could have driven past like everyone else. He was tired, broke, and already carrying more weight on his shoulders than most. But one small decision that night would change his life forever, and uncover a truth that left him stunned. Before we dive into this story, take a moment to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring more real, emotional stories to life here on Heartfelt Moments. Mark Dawson was a single dad in his late 30s, raising his 8-year-old son, Liam, on his own in a small town in Ohio. Life hadn't been easy since his wife passed away 3 years earlier. Between working long hours as a delivery driver and trying to be both mom and dad, Mark was always exhausted. Money was tight, sleep was rare, and some days, hope felt even rarer. That night, Mark was driving home after a double shift. His back ached, his hands were sore, and all he could think about was getting home to Liam. As he turned onto a quiet side street, his headlights swept across something that made him slow down. At first, he thought it was trash or a broken cart. Then he saw her. A girl, maybe around 16, sat slumped in a wheelchair near a bus stop. Her clothes were thin and soaked. Her dark hair was plastered to her face, and rainwater dripped from her sleeves. She wasn't crying or waving for help. She just sat there, staring down at her hands, as if she had already given up. Mark felt that familiar tug in his chest, the one he often tried to ignore. He told himself someone else would stop. He told himself he didn't have time. But then he thought of Liam. He thought of how he would hope a stranger would stop if his own child were ever alone and scared. Mark pulled over. He grabbed his jacket, jumped out of the car, and rushed over to her. "Hey," he said gently, crouching to her level. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up slowly. Her eyes were tired, guarded, and filled with something that hurt to see. "I'm fine," she said, though it was clear she wasn't. Mark noticed her hands shaking from the cold. He draped his jacket over her shoulders without thinking. "You're freezing," he said. "Where's your family?" She hesitated. "They left," she said quietly. Those words hit him harder than the rain. "Left you? Here?" She nodded, her jaw tight, as if holding back tears. She explained that her name was Emily. Her aunt had been taking care of her since her parents died years ago. But money had run out, patience had worn thin, and that afternoon, after an argument, her aunt had dropped her off and told her not to come back. Mark felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Do you have anywhere to go?" Emily shook her head. Without overthinking it, Mark made a choice that would scare most people. "I'm taking you somewhere warm," he said. "At least for tonight." He carefully loaded the wheelchair into his trunk and helped Emily into the car. During the drive, she barely spoke. Mark turned the heater up and offered her a granola bar he had saved for later. She accepted it with a quiet thank you, like she wasn't used to kindness anymore. When they arrived at Mark's modest apartment, Liam ran to the door. "Dad, you're late," he said, then stopped when he saw Emily. Mark knelt beside his son. "This is Emily," he said. "She needs help tonight." Liam didn't ask questions. He simply smiled and said, "Hi," like it was the most natural thing in the world. That night, Emily had a warm shower, dry clothes, and a real meal. Mark set up blankets on the couch, apologizing for the small space. Emily told him it was the nicest place she'd been in a long time. Over the next few days, Mark helped Emily contact social services, doctors, and local charities. He learned she had been using a wheelchair since an accident years earlier. What he didn't expect was the call he received from a hospital social worker. "Mr. Dawson," the woman said carefully, "there's something you should know." Emily's parents, they didn't just pass away. Her father's name was Daniel Carter. Mark's heart skipped. Daniel Carter was his best friend from high school. The man who disappeared from his life years ago after a falling out. The man who had never known Mark was the emergency contact listed on an old document. The truth hit him like a wave. Emily wasn't just a stranger. She was the daughter of the friend he once loved like a brother. Mark sat in silence for a long time after that call. Memories flooded back, late nights, shared dreams, promises to always look out for each other. When Mark told Emily the truth, her eyes filled with tears. "So, my dad knew you?" "He did," Mark said softly. "And I think he'd be grateful I found you." What started as one small act of kindness became something much bigger. Mark didn't just help Emily find safety, he helped her find family. With time, support, and love, Emily began to heal, not just physically, but emotionally. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. Money was still tight. Days were still hard. But the apartment was warmer in ways that had nothing to do with heat. Sometimes, kindness doesn't arrive as a grand gesture. Sometimes, it's just a tired single dad stopping his car in the rain. And sometimes, that one moment can change everything. If this story reminds us of anything, it's that kindness has a way of coming full circle. When we choose compassion, even when it's inconvenient, we never know whose life we're saving, or how it might save our own. So the next time you see someone in need, remember this story. One small act of kindness might be the beginning of a miracle.